Yo, so I was reading today in Proverbs 11, and a lot of times when I'm reading and I'm like studying chapters of a book, I'll I'll typically think I'll allow myself to think carnally so that way like the Lord and like the Holy Spirit can deposit like the wisdom and the understanding that I'm supposed to get from it, from the aspect of, okay, how would I see this in a fleshly sense, without any knowledge of truth, right? And so in Proverbs 11, the way that I saw it immediately, like the first like five verses, I'm just like, yo, it's like polar opposites. The first sentence will be like the righteous people will be delivered from trouble, but the wicked will walk to the trouble. And I'm just like, what? And there's another one that's like, uh what was it's man, there's so many, I'm like mixing them up. um yeah, we'll start over. So I had a thought today while I was reading, and I was reading Proverbs 11. And a lot of times when I read the Bible, I like to think of it as like more carnal minded, and not so much like, oh yeah, I already have this knowledge of truth, and I already have this fear of God, so the word actually affects me. But I read it in a sense of like, okay, like what does all of this even mean? And why is it important, and why is it in the Bible? And so I'm reading Proverbs 11, and immediately the first couple of verses have me like, oh my goodness, how, like, this would be crazy to hear. Like I would probably feel offended. And that quickly, and as soon as I thought about that, I was like, oh shoot, I would feel just like the Pharisees felt when they invited Jesus to come and dine with them, and Jesus said yes. And Jesus is like telling them about themselves basically. And one of the Pharisees waited until he stopped, and he's like, teacher, this is offensive. Like, you're insulting us. And the funny thing about it, Jesus kept going, because Jesus knew that it was more important for them to be offended and hear the truth than for Jesus to stop and never tell them the truth, and for them to never understand. I mean, for most of them, they didn't believe in Jesus, and trust him and his word and his plan, and trusting that he was sent by God and that he was the son of God. Um, but it was still important for Jesus to do that and tell them those things, and be honest with them in that way, in a very intimate way. And so as I'm reading Proverbs 11, I'm like, dang, if I was back in my like just willful sinful life, I would be offended by this. Like I would be like solely focused on the bad parts. And like the way that the whole chapter reads, it's like, okay, the righteous, they get this good thing, but then the wicked, they get this bad thing. And then the righteous, they get this good thing. Then the wicked get this bad thing. The wicked also gets this bad thing. But in turn, the righteous get this good thing. And I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, so many people today would focus on the negative. They would focus on what the wicked get. They would focus on what the troubled person would get. But would you miss out on the promise that comes for those who are righteous? And I thought about that. I'm like, how many people will focus on what the wicked person would get because they know they're the wicked person? How many people would miss what the righteous persons get, what the righteous person gets, because they know that being righteous means they don't get to be themselves and do whatever they want with no consequences, or at least with no sense of like, I don't know, like moral ethical loss or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but like just a having a sense of self to do what you want. You know what I mean? Like just keeping that, there it is, keeping that God image of themselves. Having that God like mentality. Like, oh, I can go do this. I can go be nice, but then I can go do this. I can go. help people who are experiencing homelessness, but I can also do this and treat people this way. Like, you know, it's so easy for the enemy to trick us to say, oh, look at how they're calling out how you live. Look at how they're speaking about you. Look at how they're hating and trying to tear you down, and have you completely miss the wonderful, the is the joy and the peace that comes from a life of righteousness out of obedience to God is unmatched. There was this, what's her name? Joyce Meyer. My mom used to listen to Joyce Meyer so much. And Joyce Meyer said this one morning. I never really watched, but obviously she's just playing it all the time. She like has her on the TV all the time, so I'm listening. And there was one day, Joyce Meyer said, "My worst day with God is far better than my worst day without God," and that stuck with me ever since. Y'all be easy. Peace.